Assassin's Creed is dead. Not in the most literal sense, of course. The franchise of Assassin's Creed is alive and well. Odyssey did great for Ubisoft, and with Valhalla set to capitalize off of the previous game's success, as well as the launch of the new consoles. But Assassin's Creed as an idea is dead and gone. The vision the series set out on, the atmosphere of those early games, the games I fell in love with, gone. The original Assassin's Creed came out in 2009, and if you follow my channel, you know my opinions on that game. While it hasn't aged incredibly well, it did set up a strong foundation for my favorite video game series. Assassin's Creed 2 is often regarded as the best of the series, taking what the original did and improving on it in basically every way. A better story, better characters, more fun, better gameplay. Brotherhood came out not long after, and it's known to be basically an improved version of the second game, but it's not as fondly remembered, probably mostly due to the fact that it's so similar and had such a close release. Revelations is where many saw the series start to go downhill. While having many of the same highly regarded aspects from the previous entries, it also made some missteps when trying to introduce new mechanics. But as an end to the Ezio trilogy, it's still well remembered by the fans. I have a clear bias towards Assassin's Creed 3. It came out at the perfect time for me, at the height of my Assassin's Creed fandom. I don't think there's ever been a game I was more excited for. In my opinion, it lived up to that hype, but for many others, it launched as a buggy mess with less interesting characters and stale gameplay that didn't change enough from the previous entries. The series needed to do something new if it was going to appeal to the general consumer. That's when Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag steps in. Regarded by the general audience as the best in the series, while it kept much of the assassin gameplay from the third entry, it also put much more emphasis on naval exploration and combat, as well as having the first main character in the series who wasn't really a proper assassin. But these aspects that appealed to the general audience weren't as well received by the hardcore fans. Unity and Rogue, two completely different games that had the misfortune of launching alongside each other. Rogue came out on old-gen hardware and was very well received, but didn't sell very well, being overshadowed by Unity. But Rogue had an excellent story, one of the best in the series, and it had a satisfying mix of Assassin's Creed 3 and 4's gameplay. Unity was less well received. The first game designed exclusively for next-gen hardware was a rough transition for the series. It suffered from multiple delays and an incredibly buggy launch that overshadowed any good aspects the game may have had. In some's opinion, the game also suffered a regression of gameplay and scope from Black Flag and Rogue, having no ship combat or massive open world with multiple areas. I personally see all of these flaws being due to the next-gen hardware and engine, as well as the series' infamous yearly release cycle. In recent years, though, Unity has garnered a lot of love and respect from the hardcore fanbase, being praised for its fluid, beautiful parkour, excellent animations and graphics, and it was more of a slow-paced, grounded gameplay with deeper story and characters. My ideal world would be an alternate universe where this game was used as the basis for all the future games. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is a bit of an anomaly. I often forget about it when contemplating the series, and I feel like most other people do as well. Which is a shame because it's a bloody good game. I was personally very skeptical about this game before its release, seeing that it was the most modern setting of any of the Assassin's Creed games. It had a grappling hook. It looked to be aiming more towards the Black Flag audience. And after playing it, that may still be the case, but it still provided a nice mix of gameplay, taking aspects from Black Flag, Unity, and even Brotherhood. And it was received very well, being the most well-received game to the general audience since Black Flag. It was even well-regarded amongst hardcore fans. But, sadly, it was too late, and the damage that Unity had caused already set the future of the series in motion. Assassin's Creed Origins is basically a soft reboot to the series. In my opinion, Ubisoft took clear inspiration from the success of their financial European rival, CD Projekt Red, and made games like The Witcher 3 and Far Cry their framework for the series moving forward. It was clear to them that the loudest voices in the room wanted change for the series, and change they got. Origins put a lot more emphasis on melee combat and free roam, with there being no set story mission areas, everything taking place in the open world. While this offered more freedom, it also made the story and set pieces the series is known for suffer. There's a lot I could say about Origins. I also have a first impressions video, which obviously is a first impressions. I've played the heck out of the game, my opinion has changed, but many of the thoughts on my game also apply to Odyssey, so for the rest of the video I'll be talking about Odyssey with comparisons to the older games in the series.
ليش wakan mutlak بالكلون ممكن. The wisdom of our creed is revealed through these words. We work in the dark to serve the light. We are assassins.
Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed. A creed of assassins, rebels, born to a higher purpose, to wage an unending war in the shadows against the Templars, to keep humanity free. Assassin's Creed Odyssey has no assassins. Well, one assassin who isn't really an assassin. There's no creed, no Templars, no Shadow Wars. Well, kind of a Shadow War that the Shadow Organization is literally wiped out by your fucking god mercenary by the end of the game. Imagine if instead of Ezio's entire family dying and him spending the rest of his life dedicating himself to this unending cause, Ezio wipes out the Templars in a couple of years and sits down for a nice awkward dinner with his family alive and well. Doesn't that sound nice? No, that's fucking stupid. And you might be saying, oh, well, Trox, you can still be a little stabby boy. You can go around pretending you're Ezio all you want. Stealth in this game is clearly an afterthought. Instead of a hidden blade, you are using a giant fucking spear that you keep plainly visible at all times. Instead of carefully planning your assassination routes and targets, you teleport your spear between 5 enemies that are nowhere near each other. Instead of weighing whether you should risk your life by staying to fight a group of guards that are much more well equipped than you with your medieval sword, just pound their faces in with a staff that grants you eternal life. And the worst offense of all is that assassination isn't even a viable route. If you don't gear all your, well, gear to assassination damage, invest in skills, perks, and gear mods that do the same, and avoid playing on the harder difficulties, you won't even be able to kill enemies with assassination attacks. They have too much health. Some enemies are downright impossible to kill with one hit. And some enemies, like important story characters, where in previous games the whole point would be to assassinate them, are impossible to even attempt an assassination. Meaning you have to resort to brawling it out in a boss fight, which if you've geared your character for only doing assassination damage, then you're fucked. But now you're saying, hey, Ultrox, you can make multiple gear loadouts to swap between. Yes, hot swapping loadouts. That's what I want in Assassin's Creed. But really, I don't need to explain all this. Your character is a literal god, not an assassin. That's all you really need to know.
How about the bigger challenge? Va bene, let's go.
Ah yes, parkour, climbing, a staple of the series. One of my favorite parts of the games is strategically climbing that historical cathedral or giant ancient tree, seeing a view from the horizon as I make a leap of faith to the hay bale beneath me. Or climbing up a sheer cliff face with no handholds, then just jumping right off because there's no fucking fall damage. Parkour and climbing is just not fun in Odyssey. Maybe it's fun at first when you're still getting to know this giant open map, but most of the time you don't even need to climb. You just ride your horse across the ground, kill enemies across the ground, occasionally pick up a viewpoint, rinse and repeat. Fuck, in the DLC there's even teleporters so you can avoid climbing. Most of the things you climb are just cliff faces or dicks on statues or some recycled building that you've already climbed a dozen times.
We have continued to transform Assassin's Creed into an epic RPG experience.
Full-blown RPG. Sure. You know, I'm not completely opposed to the RPG mechanics in this game. It's been an increasing trend of the series and games in general to introduce more RPG-like mechanics. But for goodness sakes, this full-blown RPG bullshit was poorly implemented. You have two options. Be male or female. Be mean or nice. Be mean or suck some big Greek dick. The two options barely change the story as a whole or increase your connection to your character. You know, the two things these mechanics are supposed to do. They only serve to weaken and mess up an already weak and messy narrative. This isn't a full-blown RPG. This is a half-assed RPG you forced into a series that story was better without it. I didn't mean for this video to be 90% just shitting on Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I meant it more as a retrospect on the series' downfall as a whole. And while Origins had a lot of the same problems as Odyssey, at least in some aspects it was still trying to be an Assassin's Creed game somewhat. Odyssey just doesn't care. And with the announcement of games like Skull and Bones and Immortals Phoenix Rising, it's just so clear to me that Ubisoft doesn't want to make Assassin's Creed. They want to make pirates and gods and Vikings and whatever else, but they feel the need to shove these ideas into the Assassin's Creed license first. It's like Assassin's Creed is their new IP testing ground. And with Valhalla right around the corner, it just looks to be going even further down that road. But I also acknowledge that the series isn't meant for me anymore. It's painful for sure. I'll miss it immensely, but I had my fun. I certainly can't financially or creatively support a whole game dev studio alone. It's just time for me to move on. And to those who still enjoy the games, that's fine. You're allowed to do that. You can take the reins. The Assassin's Creed I fell in love with is dead and gone. Thank you so much for watching if you've made it this far. I don't have a Patreon to shout out. No, but this is the first video of this type that I've ever attempted to make. And I had a lot of fun with it. And it made me sad, but you know, it's creatively, I had fun with it. Check out my playthroughs of Assassin's Creed. I did the first one in its entirety, and I'm partially through the second game, which I'm also using this video as a platform to announce that I'm going to be starting up my Assassin's Creed 2 series again. It should be starting next week. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope you come along. Cool. Bubber. If I could rearrange the alphabet, I'd put you and I together. That goes on the outro now, apparently. Bye-bye.